What's up, everybody? Couch Mills here, coming at you with a brand new Overwatch video. And in this video, we're going to be breaking down 8 characters that you suck at. Now, essentially, these are characters that a lot of people are playing wrong. You're going in, you're doing whatever you think the character should be doing, but there are big pieces of the puzzle that you're missing, and if you don't ever fix them, you're gonna keep playing the character wrong, and there's gonna be a certain rank that you get to that no matter what you improve on in other aspects, you can't get past. So we're gonna break all that down in this video so that you can dominate your games and climb the ladder. But go to the GameLeap website in the links down below for in-depth advanced guides, VOD reviews, tips, and tricks over every single one of these characters plus more. Don't miss out on this insane chance to climb the ranks of Overwatch with ease. But without further ado, let's jump into the video. Now, kicking it off with the first character that I really wanted to talk about in this video, and it's actually one of 2 flyers on the list, hint hint, and it's Echo. Now, Echo's a character that is so damn powerful in the right hands. We all know just how much value a good Echo can get, but a lot of people are playing her really poorly. Now, if you think about it, Echo should rarely ever die because she has amazing mobility, and she should be able to get value even if she's not getting solo picks because of her ultimate really being decisive. Now, what you need to understand about Echo is in the same way that you would be playing a Genji, and we talked about the duality of Genji a lot, right? We talk about being able to go in and go for proactive plays or playing passive for your ultimate. You could be doing very similar things to Echo. In a sense, she has her own duality where sometimes you want to be going in with your team, creating pressure, creating plays, or diving a target that's isolated. You can do these type of things if there's an opportunity that presents itself, but because the meta is always hit scan dominant, you can't just be flying around the map like you don't care on Echo. You're just gonna die again and again. You need to be playing passive with your team, waiting for your moment to either go in, or you're just passively staying alive, building that ultimate, punishing tanks that get too close with your beam, and spamming a lot, and then using your ultimate and ulting on a target that is going to get guaranteed value. Mainly characters that are tanks, characters like Orisa, for instance, automatically get tons of value, and you're almost guaranteed to get that ultimate right away and win a team fight off of it. That's very similar to what you would be doing with a Genji, right? If you're not able to go in, when you're playing Genji up against characters that you can't just dive in at like a psycho, you poke, you build up your blade, and then you would typically nano blade. But as Echo, she is the one character show. She can do it all, and you just got to understand the duality of Echo and how Echo is similar to other characters in that regard, like Genji or Doomfist. Now, moving on to the next character that you are playing incorrectly a lot, and it actually happens to be Baptiste. Now, I personally think that Baptiste is an amazing character, especially in solo queue, especially in lower ranked SR, because you can not only play the role of a main healer where you heal your tanks up so damn much, but you can provide so much extra other utility with your ultimate, with your immortality field, which is the most powerful ability in the game, or at least top 3, and you can do damage as well. Now, the big problem with a lot of Baptiste players is they truly don't understand how much they can keep a tank alive when under pressure. Baptiste is the only healer that realistically can save a tank that would have died 3 times over through a combination of heal spamming and immortality field at the proper moment. And the thing is, when you go through the cycle, like your tank goes in, he takes a whole bunch of damage, you heal him up, he takes more damage, his shield breaks, you immortality field, you reload, you heal him more. By the time this entire cycle's done with, guess what you got? You got your ultimate already because it generates so quickly. Now, another thing that a lot of people are doing wrong with Baptiste is they're jumping far too much. Yes, there's some characters that flying in the air can be legitimately good against. Characters like Genji or characters like Pharah or Doomfist. But other characters like any hit scan, basically, and characters that are projectile, fast-moving projectiles like Hanzo, these are characters that you never want to fly through the air in a fixed movement against, so be very careful about that for your Baptiste play. Now, moving on to the next character that we got for you on the list is a very important one because this is one that is going to be a lot better now that he saw some buffs, and it's Reaper. Now, a lot of people don't quite understand how to utilize Lifesteal and Reaper's Wraith to the maximum effectiveness. Now, the cool thing about Lifesteal is when you're all up in a tank's face, you're moving around right on top of them. Not only is it hard for them sometimes to hit you because you're moving so close to them, you're moving around their body, you're wrapping them over and over over again, you're also gaining health to somewhat ignore random bits of trash damage, people poking you, a support hitting you, for example, because they can't burst you down fast enough, and a lot of times you can sustain even through the tank itself's damage. Now, something that you need to understand is you typically want to go in, do a lot of damage to a target, get in a final burst of damage, like a shot, and then you want to wraith away. That's going to be the typical style of Reaper. But if you see a special opportunity, you can always use your Wraith to dodge some form of CC, or to do a mix-up where you're not intending to leave, you're actually intending to re-engage onto an enemy. You get that full magazine, you get a burst of damage out of nowhere where you can shoot, Wraith, pop out, shoot again, and a lot of times enemies are not going to be expecting that. And ultimately, you need to understand that there are some characters on the enemy team that are giant red flags that you need to constantly be tracking their position, playing around them, knowing where they are, what cooldowns they have, and all those factors. And then there are other characters that are, you know, basically dog water to you, right? You don't even care about their existence. In fact, you're looking to abuse them, but you got to make sure that you don't get shut down by those really hard counter characters like Hanzo, like McCree, that are in certain places around the map. And as long as you track them and play around them, you're going to be successful on Reaper. Now moving on to the next character that I think is really misunderstood. Players are playing her pretty poorly in general, and it's been like this since the dawn of time, and it's D.Va. Now the way that you play D.Va is going to fundamentally change depending on who you're playing D.Va with. For instance, you're playing with a monkey, you want to go in with that monkey, you want to DM him so he has more sustain, he doesn't get hit by cooldowns like sleep or nade or whatever the case may be. You keep him alive so that he can be more effective, and then you go in with him and do damage. Now, the more predominant way to play D.Va, typically in this meta or just in general, is the peel-based D.Va, and this is a way that you can get a lot of value. Think of a Roadhog that's on the flank, right? He hooks a support, he hooks your Ana, and normally he would one-shot your Ana, but because you're there, you're waiting, you're actively keeping track of enemy threats that want to target either your DPS or supports, and you're saving some amount of DM for that instance, you can easily boost over, protect your Ana now sleeps the Roadhog, you time a nade with your rockets, and you kill that Roadhog for free. That is a completely different scenario because of your awareness, and D.Va can be like the ultimate babysitter. She can make it so even a Tracer that executes a dive perfectly, right, with all of her cooldowns, she goes in on a support, you keep that support alive just long enough for them to kite away and that Tracer to exhaust her limited resources and have to recall out of the fight. Now, there is only really one way to get dominant on D.Va, very, very good at D.Va, and it's actually putting yourself in the shoes of your enemy. You need to be thinking about the enemy predators as if they're you. If you were their Tracer, what would you be doing and how would you do it? If you were their Pharah or you were their Reaper or whatever the case may be, if you're not thinking about where they would be going, how they would be flanking your team, what type of plays they're going to be going for, then you'll never be in a position to stop it. You basically need to be always thinking like an enemy when you're playing D.Va. Then we go to the next character that a lot of people play incorrectly, and it's Pharah. Now, Pharah, unfortunately, is in a state where she's pretty hard to play without a Mercy Pocket. That being said, even when players have a Mercy Pocket, they don't play Pharah correctly. Pharah's biggest strength is actually her AoE or explosive damage that has no distance gap. This means that her default playstyle should be really as far away as possible, hopefully outside of the effective range of characters like Soldier and characters like McCree, really far back with still a certain amount of natural cover nearby, so if they pop a High Noon or a Visor, you can get out, but you're spamming a centrally located space where tanks have to flush to, where supports occupy, and you're putting tons of pressure that way. This is a very passive style of Pharah, but it's the predominantly good one, and you do this until you whittle down the enemy, and there's additional pressure because you're putting all this damage in, and your tanks get to go push forward, take space because the enemy has to retreat, back up, and kite. Now, once this happens, you can look for opportunities to make a play on the enemy hit scan, especially if they're on the high ground, docked somewhere apart from their team. You can make a concussion play, get on top of them, and hit one shot where it's AoE and the other shot direct, and you finish them off. But ultimately, a lot of people don't do this correctly. They want to get to that mid-range where where they know they're gonna hit every single shot, but you also put yourself at risk, and that is the reason why a lot of Pharahs just feed over and over again up against any half-decent hit scan. And this is really what you need to understand, because Pharah is viable in the right hands, but you got to make sure that you're really utilizing her effective range, her strengths, and you're only going in when you're going in with intent, going after a specific hit scan, because once you clear those characters off the board, then you got free range to fly at that mid-range. You know what I'm saying? Then we'll go to the next character that I gotta talk about in this video, and it's Tracer. Now, Tracer, unfortunately, players play her terribly in most ranks, if I'm being honest. She's a character that has an incredibly high skill ceiling, but let me help you with a few things that you need to be thinking about when you're playing Tracer to just play her better in general. The first thing that you need to understand about Tracer is that typically you want to be trading up with abilities. And what I mean by that is a little bit of pressure as a Tracer onto an Ana can often bait out something like Sleep, or bait out something like Nade, or even both. A little bit of pressure on a Sigma can bait out Accretion, can bait out Kinetic Grasp, and force that Sigma to retreat. Now the list goes on and on, but what I'm saying is using a little bit of pressure and of your time can bait out many more abilities than you are putting in yourself. This is why Tracer's a hyper efficient character, and a good Tracer can overall really trade up in value with abilities, with ultimates. I mean, one pulse bomb can win a team fight, and the thing that you really need to know about Tracer is the only way to do this is making sure that you're actually trading your abilities for value. Many times I see Tracers engage on a target when they don't have enough cooldowns, not set up to engage correctly, either at half health, no recall, not all their blinks, use their blinks to route. The list goes on, and of course having so bad tracking that they can't actually force any abilities out. Let me give you this example. Let's say that you're Tracer, and instead of routing behind an Ana, or, you know, getting behind her to where you could walk up to her and shoot her a little bit blink, shoot her a little bit blink, and then have your recall to get out, you double blink or triple blink over to that Ana. Now, on top of that, you're missing all your shots. Now, not only does that Ana only have to put a little bit of damage into you to get you to recall, because you don't have any blinks to put damage into her, but if you're not hitting your shots, she doesn't have to use her self-nade. She's not even threatened enough to use her sleep, and she gets to just go back to her team, kite away from you, and your presence alone creates no forced response. And this is a really important concept for you to understand. Even if you're not getting tons of picks and value on Tracer, you need to be creating these forced responses. And what I would highly suggest you do if you're playing Tracer, you go on a dive, and every time you go on a dive after a support, and maybe you get kited away, or you recall, or whatever the case may be, I want you to go back into that game later on and go look from the perspective of the supports. Go look at the VOD reviews. Go look for yourself. See what it was like for them. How much pressure did you put on them, or did you even put any pressure at all? And what could have you done differently to make sure that they were much more heavily pressured, and maybe even you got some kills as well. Now, moving on to the second character in this list that I really want to talk about is Lucio, which Lucio is a character that has the potential to just dominate ranked. You see many times, even in a non-Lucio meta, Lucio's climb all the way to top 10, because Lucio is one of those characters that can have tons and tons of solo impact. Now, at a base level, you need to understand that the reason that Lucio is so powerful is not because of his heal at all. His heal's okay, but realistically, it should be something that you're almost never using a full amp up for. Sometimes you see high-level Lucios amp up, but they always split the difference between heals and speed, and the majority of the time, they're just going to be on speed instead. You got to understand that faster movement actually equates to less damage taken and allows your teammates to just be overall more effective. You can go through chokes more without taking as much spam. You can chase down targets a lot easier. You are harder to hit by the enemy. I mean, the list goes on and on about all the benefits of speed boost, so definitely keep that in mind overall with Lucio. Far too many Lucios in general, but especially low rank Lucios, just spam heals like crazy. But the other thing that you need to understand about Lucio is that there's two forms of Lucio. There's the team-based Lucio, and there's the proactive playmaking Lucio. And unfortunately or fortunately, depends on who you're asking, Lucio can be an aggressive character in ranked. you can literally challenge DPS. You can displace tanks into your team. You can actually go chase down characters like a Widowmaker and win the duel. There's so many ways to take matters into your own hands as Lucio and find a way to be proactive. Now, in my personal opinion, this version of Lucio is the most easiest to carry and climb with, but it also requires the most amount of mechanical skill and ability to consistently wall climb and a lot of wall climb tech so that you can wall climb on the walls, chase down enemies, roll out to enemies, get crazy boop plays, boop enemies into your team like I talked about before. The list goes on Lucio, and typically you want to have a combination of both styles of Lucio. But I find too often Lucio players that are hard stuck just default to an overly passive version of Lucio that doesn't even enable because they're healing too much, and you are basically flipping the coin for your wins and losses at that point. Then we're going to the last character that players are still not playing correctly, and it's important to know this character because he is coming back in meta, surprisingly, and it's Reinhardt. Now, there are many problems with people playing Reinhardt, but the biggest one is people don't understand that it is 100% okay for you to take damage as you're taking space on a point. You as a base person, I'm not talking about your shield, I'm talking about your health. Now, the reason that that is okay is because you want to make sure that when you're on the front lines, you can put up your shield, your teammates can do damage through it and be effective through it while you're holding up your shield for your team. Now, ultimately, there are 3 things that you can't allow to have happen on Reinhardt. You can't get to the front of the enemy team and your shield break. That is going to get you and your entire team killed. You cannot get bursted so hard that you don't actually utilize your shield. That's very bad. Of course, you're just going to die and you're going to lose the team fight because of that. And then the third thing that is incredibly important is you can't get CC'd. Things like hooked or naded, for instance, which just means that you're going to die ultimately. Now, what you can do, however, is instead of walking up to the enemy team, utilizing your entire shield and getting to the front of the enemy team and it breaks, you allow some of the damage to hit your shield while blocking cooldowns and some of the damage to hit your base self while utilizing natural cover. Now, while you're letting your shield charge, you can kite back a little bit and you can also get swings in so you build up ult charge yourself. Also, you can throw fire strikes along like the side of a LOS structure like a wall or a building, and you can slide it along so that it's a lot harder for enemies to dodge. Aim at center of the enemy Reinhardt shield and you'll typically hit him and a couple other targets. Now, that being said, when you are at the front of the enemy team, if you have a full shield but you're weak, all you got to do is hold up that shield. You don't fire strike, you don't swing, you don't do anything. You hold up that shield, you let your DPS and your team do damage through it while you're bullying the other side of the enemy team, and you allow your healers to heal you up because you're protected by your shield. This is why a Reinhardt with incredibly good shield management and throwing in fire strikes and swings correctly can not only get a leg up on the ultimate aspect, and you can win team fights just with your Earth Shatter, which is really, really good in a way to carry, but you can actually win team fights when you have worse DPS. Because you're managing your shield and your resources so well, the enemy Reinhardt shield is going to be put in a situation where it's broken, he's weak, and you're taking space into him and his team, and he has no way to defend his team, while yours is going to be much larger. You're going to be able to have it up while the enemy Reinhardt is low or weak or broken, and that just means a one team fight because your team, like your McCree, right, can stand behind your shield, shoot the enemy team, and they can't shoot him back, which is completely unfair. And if you utilize all these things, you're going to have a lot easier time climbing on any of these characters. But go to the GameLeap website in the links down below for tons of high-quality advanced guides, tips and tricks, VOD reviews over every single one of these characters. If you want to level up your game and climb the ranks of Overwatch right away, go check it out down below. But thank you so much for coming by. I hope you enjoyed the video. That's all I got for you today. I'm Coach Mills, and of course, until next time.